Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday's morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Three of us on today. I'm Hamish. Hello. We've got Ryan on and Kevin as well. Kevin, how are things?
Good morning. Very good. Very good. Not many occasions in my life where you're in a possible treble week.
I know. No, it's exciting, isn't it? And we're kind of slowly getting towards kick-off, aren't we? Tuesday afternoon. Bit of chat on that today, everyone. Bit of chat and a few other things as well. We've got some Callum McGregor comments on young Shawn Micardo. We have a bit of chat about the cup final. Bit of Matt O'Reilly stuff as well, Ryan, that's going on. How's things, Ryan? And you're muted. Good start, Ryan. That's how we love
start
to
as
see
you mean
it.
to go on, honestly. You know, you try and cover yourself and you mute yourself first.
Some would say you're better muted. I wouldn't say that.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Hamish. Thank you very much. Smart minds think alike and all that. Yeah, I'm doing well. Enjoyed Trophy Day on Saturday, but now I think all the focus is on the Scottish Cup final this Saturday. Just hoping it goes as quickly as possible. Glad it's on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. I know it's always on a Saturday, but you don't want to wait your whole weekend waiting for this game. You want it to be Saturday, 3:00. Just looking forward to getting to Hampden and really sampling it.
Yeah, Saturday, 3:00. It was 5:30 a couple of years ago against Inverness, wasn't it? So I'm glad the last couple of years we've got back to the traditional time slot. Okay, before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor. This Celtic Way video is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Big thanks to them for supporting us. And also we've got our Martin O'Neill competition. Is it a competition still running, Ryan? People can get involved. 6 months of access for £1, plus the chance, just a outside chance, I guess. But you're in the hat to win lunch with Martin O'Neill.
Yes, and all of our existing subscribers are entered into this offer as well. So all you need to do is be subscribed to the channel. I think it's before June the 1st.
Yes.
6 months of access for a single £1. You could win lunch with Celtic legend Martin O'Neill, one of the most legendary figures in modern day Celtic history. He took Celtic to the Europa League final, or the UEFA Cup final rather. I think he was the real starting point for Celtic's dominance. I think he's a great starting point for the club. And that's just been followed on throughout the years, throughout the past 2 decades. So get a chance to pick his brains, talk to him about all things Celtic, past, present and future. 6 months of access for £1 at www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe.
Yes, get involved there. Okay, Kevin, what did you make of Trophy Day? I guess the game wasn't too enjoyable, but it was all worth it for that moment near the end.
Yeah, we Jamesy. I feel as if I've sort of been in that journey with him because I was at his where he scored his first goal. In fact, I think I might have been at his debut. But one of the really nice byproducts of all this is that we finally got a Jamesy song.
Yeah,
just remember for a couple of years everyone was scratching their heads saying, how come we have players coming and going from overseas and we get a wee song about them, but we don't have one for our Jamesy? And they went retro because that's what they used to, the tune they've selected is what we used to sing about Jimmy Johnston in the 60s and early 70s. So it was just lovely. And also, I mean, it was one of those games, wasn't it? St Mirren are a much improved team under Robinson. They really are. I mean, we could have been 3 or 4-0 up, but they always carried a danger. But just getting that last minute equaliser and James Forrest, 16 seasons in a row. I'm now hoping that somehow he can score in the cup final because he's never scored in a Scottish Cup final for Celtic. Yeah. He scored in I think a couple of League Cup finals, but not.
I think he scored in three League Cup finals. He scored Aberdeen, Motherwell, and Dundee United.
Dundee United, yeah. So I'd love to see him score on Saturday.
Yeah, he's because I was making the point last week when I heard his song at Pittodrie, and someone pointed out to me that actually that Jamesy Forrest on the wing was first sung at his testimonial against Athletic Club at the start of last season. So I don't know where it's gone between them.
Right.
But good to hear it. Make a re-emergence in recent days or matches. So that's all well and good. I've got your comments up on my phone, everyone, because I still can't get them on the screen, but I've got them here. They might be slightly delayed, and if I see anything interesting, I'll raise it, and one of our diligent people working in the background will put it on screen. Ryan, what are you thinking? James Forrest, should he start on Saturday?
If it goes down to form, then yeah, he should be in the starting lineup, because I think he's one of the informed attackers for Celtic at this moment in time. You could say he is the informed attacker, given his performance against Aberdeen. I was lucky enough to be at Pittodrie sort of 6 days ago, and he was absolutely brilliant. He totally lit up the game for 90 minutes. Had Graham Shinney chasing shadows for the full game. I think that was a bit of a mismatch between those two players. I know Shinney's been playing centrally in his career, playing as a bit of a midfielder. I don't know if they were stretched, and that was the reason he was out wide, but he really struggled against James Forrest. And James Forrest's pace as well. You know, in a couple of games this season, I was like, maybe that pace isn't there what it used to be, but he's still got quickness, and he showed that quickness against Aberdeen. But for me, if it goes down to form, and I think it should go down to form, then James Forrest starts for me. And he's a veteran to these fixtures. He knows how to win cup finals. You know, he scored in those League Cup finals. I remember, in particular, the goal that he scored against Aberdeen in the League Cup final. I think that was the first one under Brendan Rodgers. For me, if it's between the two, and I didn't think Nicholas Kuhn was that great on Saturday. If it's between those two, then it's got to be James Forrest for me, and he's there due to merit and not down to sentimentality.
No, well, Brendan Rodgers says he's not sentimental, and it definitely isn't. He's not just that he scored his goal at the weekend, but he's our best player at the moment for me. Yeah, I'm looking at the comments coming in. People are saying that they're in favour of Forrest starting. Steve saying Jamesy must start. Dennis, yes, start Forrest. Wazzaboy Forrest to start on Saturday defo. So there seems to be a kind of common feeling, a common consensus that James Forrest should start, and I think a lot of us would agree with this. Kevin, did you see this thing about Jeff Schlupp and the fact that he could obviously win the Scottish Cup on Saturday, but also that he's been given an FA Cup winners medal for playing 13 minutes for Crystal Palace against Stockport County, which I don't know if that qualifies you for a winners medal, but it probably does. But he could win the FA Cup and the Scottish Cup in the same season, which hasn't been done too often.
I wonder if has it been done before at all?
Well, Wazzaboy was in touch saying apparently Kenny Dalglish did it. Andrei Kanchelskis won the FA Cup and Scottish Cup in the same season.
Kenny Dalglish. So Dalglish played in 77 for Celtic. I doubt that, because Dalglish went to Liverpool at the start of 77, 78. Oh, unless you're talking about... No, I don't think so. His last cup final for us was 77 against Rangers, where he nearly lost his medal. And they all had to go in a hunt around the pitch. And then he signed for Liverpool in August for the start of the season, and won 3 or 4 FA Cups for Liverpool.
So you'd have to go out on loan, wouldn't you? Yeah, you'd have to be a club and go out on loan.
You would have to bear a loan arrangement.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know. I don't even know if those, unless they've changed the rules with medals down south, because it used to be there was a little bit of controversy over players not getting medals who were in a cup final squad, but if they didn't actually get onto the park, they weren't due a medal. So then the FA, I think, opened that up a bit, but I'm not sure if you get a medal for playing 13 minutes in the fourth or the fifth round. But I might be completely wrong. If it is, that'd be another little bit of kind of like, fairy tale history to attach to Celtic and their cup final, their relationship with the Scottish Cup.
Yeah. But he's definitely got a medal because he posted it on Instagram. So he's obviously been sent a medal after. So he's definitely got one, and he could get a Scottish Cup one this weekend as well, Ryan.
Splendid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll have it on good authority that those 13 minutes against Stockport in the FA Cup must have been brilliant for him to get that medal. Listen, if you're in the squad, then you deserve a medal. And it's good that they've recognised his efforts for Crystal Palace as well, because he'll feel a little bit not left out because he's winning trophies for Celtic. But, seeing Crystal Palace, a team that he's been at for 7, 8, 9 years. He was there for a good while. I know his contract ends in the summer, but he was a really, really good servant for Crystal Palace. So the biggest moment, arguably the biggest moment in their history, certainly their modern history, and he wasn't a part of that. There must be something in his head that was like, oh, maybe I did want to be part of that, but he's making up for that at Celtic. He's winning trophies. He's got the chance to win 2 trophies at Celtic in the Scottish Cup and the Scottish Premiership. But no, it was just good to see at the weekend. Really, really nice scenes to see Crystal Palace win that FA Cup final. Seeing grown men in tears with their children, and that's what it's all about.
There was a strong Lisbon Lion connection to that cup final because Willie Wallace and John Hughes went to Crystal Palace after Celtic. Some would say they went too early. That the Lisbon Lions was broken up too early, and of course from Manchester City, Billy McNeil used to be the manager there. But I was wanting Palace to win because I think they're a great club.
Well, I got up the other day and I heard people talking, saying, Crystal Palace have beaten Man City, and I just assumed that it was the semi-final for some reason, because I don't know why the FA Cup final is earlier than the end of the league season. I honestly just thought it was the semi-final, and then as time went on, I went, folk are talking about that quite a lot, and I thought, God, was that the final? And then I realised Palace had won it. So well done, Jeff Schlupp. There's some comments going back to Celtic, comments from Callum McGregor on, I think you need to call him young Shawn Micardo by law, don't you? You have to put the young in front of it while he's still 17. But Callum McGregor, and this is on our website, by the way, Callum McGregor speaking a bit about his attitude so far and his game being clean, and I'm having a good picture of what's going on. I think Brendan Rodgers talking as well about the personality that Micardo has. Micardo wasn't in the squad for Saturday, was he? And I was a little bit disappointed because I really wanted to see him. I doubt we'll see him on Saturday either, but he looks like he's got something there, Kevin, potentially.
Yeah, there was some gorgeous little touches from him at Pittodrie. And I know there was the little dinked ball in for the goal. But see, before that, just a couple of minutes before that, out on the right, there was just a lovely little drag back that just immediately created space. And I'm thinking, I haven't seen those kind of skills in one so young with Celtic for a long time. Maybe I remember being really excited when Aidan McGeady came into the team. And we'd all heard how amazing he was, how many clubs wanted him and how he ended up at Celtic. And then, the next thing you wonder if he can actually reproduce it in an actual match day experience. And I'm getting McGeady vibes with Shawn Micardo. He's definitely got the skills. And one thing we know about Brendan Rodgers, apart from all the other stuff, is that he's very, very good at bringing the best out of players, both young players and seasoned pros, where he can find something or help them find something else.
I mean, there's probably similarities in terms of the kind of dazzling aspect and what McGeady brought us, but I guess a big difference would be that I think McGeady was hyped for quite a while, going through the age groups, and I remember it was at Tynecastle he made his debut, and there was a bit of a buzz that day. I hadn't heard anything about Shawn Micardo prior to him coming on against Hibs. Now, maybe I'm not as aware of the young players coming through as other people would be, Ryan. I don't know, but I would say a lot of people would maybe feel like me that they hadn't really even heard the name Shawn Micardo and then suddenly you see him. He comes on against Hibs, does all right, but especially against Aberdeen, he's incredibly young. He's incredibly early. We don't need to get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, it's quite exciting, isn't it? What we could have here if he keeps developing.
Always think there's more interest when it's one of your own players coming through the system. A lot of supporters love getting behind a player like that and really supporting them. I've got to say I was impressed by him in the mid-season game that Celtic played against Sligo Rovers. I believe that he set up one of the goals for Lewis Palmer, but he was one of the players that stood out in the second half. He came on as a substitute and he was really, really impressive. I was actually speaking to somebody at the club who says that he's one of the highest highest potential youngsters coming through the B team at this point. So the fact that he made not just one appearance but 2 appearances in a row shows that he's got something. You know, Jude Bonner got his debut earlier on in the season and then you never seen him again. It was the same for Francis Turley. He came into the team and then you never seen him again. He was at the start of the season, so there's been quite a bit of time between that and having no appearances from then until now. You wonder what the future is going to be for the likes of Bonner and Turley. But in the case of Shawn Micardo, he seems to be quite a popular guy in and around the dressing room. He's clearly been training with the first team for a good amount of time because Cal McGregor's really impressed with the way that he trains. The same for the manager. I think the one word that stood out for me was fearless. He's utterly fearless when he's on the ball, and you need to be that. You need to have something about you if you're a youngster. Otherwise, you'll just fade. You'll just fade. You need to stand out if you're a youngster, because Celtic are a team that, if their youngsters aren't doing it, they can go and sign a player for 5-6 million and put themselves in the team. So in order to make yourself a fully fledged Celtic player, you need to stand out. And he's done that in the past 2 games, particularly that game at Pittodrie. Was really impressed. He was the player that a lot of people were talking about coming out of that game. You know, that was a really, really positive cameo for him. And I thought we would see more of him on Saturday. Maybe not a start, although I would have liked to have seen that in terms of safeguarding some of their first team players ahead of next week. But even coming off the bench, he might still have a chance because, you know, the cup final benches and that. But yeah, I think he's one that we're going to see more of in the years to come, hopefully. Hopefully extends his future. I'm not going to get too excited about him because we've got excited about youngsters before coming through the Celtic system, and then their first opportunity, they go down south, they go elsewhere. So I want him to pledge his future, and then we can begin to get really excited about this young player coming through.
Because we touched on this yesterday, Kevin, but Brendan Rodgers has been speaking at the weekend about the legacy he wants to leave behind at the club. And one of the things, away from the obvious winning trophies and European progress, is he wants to have improved the youth academy and have more players coming through to the first team more easily and quicker. So he's clearly, you know, willing to give players the opportunity. And if Micardo keeps doing the right things, like has been said from Callum McGregor, who calls him someone who's, you know, quite nice, quiet, does the work and no fuss, then we could be on to a winner here. It's hard not to get ahead of yourself, but it's early days.
Yeah, there are some football writers who, in the absence of having anything else to beat Celtic with over the last few years, as we've collected trebles, one thing that they fasten on is the kind of the relative scarcity of Scottish-born players that Celtic have. It's like, you know, right, what else can we do? How else can we criticise Celtic? Oh yeah, there's hardly any Scottish players. And then that allows them to do their other favourite thing, which is to lump us in with Rangers, because that's the other thing they like to do. I suppose to kind of give Rangers a kind of, you know, an added meaningfulness to their existence to be lumped in with us. But I mean, that kind of fails to acknowledge, as they well know, the demands of the Champions League. You know, Celtic now see themselves as regular participants in the Champions League, and our demand, the fans' demand for success, I'm afraid, it doesn't leave a lot of wriggle room, you know, to be blooding, you know, really, really young players, unless they're extra special. It's just the way, I'm afraid. But it would be great. I'd love to see him play some part in on Saturday. I guess from Brendan Rodgers' perspective, he feels that these big set-piece occasions are a chance for him. And I know sentiment doesn't come into it, but he's looking over the course of the season at the 25-man squad that have done so well this season and taken us to the brink of a treble and making their mark in the Champions League. And if there's going to be, a 50-50 decision between blooding an admittedly very gifted or potentially gifted young player and a squad player, who has been there when it's mattered, he's going to, in order to kind of show the squad that he's loyal and he'll reward these sorts of things, he will rightly, come down when it's 50-50 with the more experienced squad member who's been there throughout the season.
Yeah, you just hope that, it's less about Saturday, more about next season for me, but you just hope Micardo can be a big part of pre-season and he can become maybe next season a player who's involved and becomes one of those squad players, because the hope is that you give players like this an opportunity and they just thrive, right?
Because we've had, one other just small thing, because, the kind of memories we've had, with Ben Doak and then Liam Miller in 2003, who chose England, and that was partly because we didn't have them tied down at the right time. But to a certain extent, again, our options are lowered there when you're up against the kind of transfer system in the UK, and we've taken advantage of it when we've had to domestically. So I'm not complaining too much. Sorry.
No, all good. One thing I would say is if we're seeing Shawn Micardo on Saturday, then that's a pretty good sign that Celtic have won the treble, because you're not bringing on a young player when the chips are down like that. Yeah. So if you're bringing him on late on, it means that Celtic have probably already clinched the treble and have done it quite convincingly. So maybe with Hatate's injury, it might open up an opportunity for him to get a bench place. If that's the case, then if the game is won, then I've got no issue with blooding in a youngster, give him that taste for winning trophies. And see how he can develop that over the summer in terms of making himself a first-team player, really knock on that door of the midfield. I think a lot of people are quite excited about him, and for good reason, because everything that he's shown so far is positive. It's that lack of doubt in his head when he's playing forward passes that I really like. There's no apprehension. As I said before, he's fearless. He's brave. He wants to make risky passes. You could have somebody that just sits on the fence and coasts through a game. He's not that. He's wanting to take risks and really show that he is a capable footballer. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in the years ahead, hopefully at Celtic.
Yeah, I know Steve McGrory was commenting earlier saying that we're short of midfielders at the moment, and we kind of are. We've only really got 4 midfielders, don't we, in terms of like what you would look at as being proven options at the moment. And I think that's something to address next season, and that's why I think a lot of people would like to see Celtic sign at least 1 additional midfielder, 2 if Hatate moves on. So it might not be bad to have young Shawn Micardo on the bench and involved on Saturday. What's the Matt O'Reilly stuff, Ryan? Because I'm seeing that Fabrizio Romano has deleted the tweet. I don't know if you noticed that.
I don't know if it was down to putting on the wrong emoji to the tweet, because he had I think Steve Clark has really missed a trick if he's Scottish and he's not playing for the national team. He's very
surely Irish. You would go for a name like Matt O'Reilly.
Well, Thomas Delaney's got a lot of caps for Denmark as well. There seems to be that link between the two. There was a tweet that was out yesterday that has since been deleted. I wonder if it's because of that emoji or it's because the facts in it aren't necessarily right, or maybe the source is wrong. Fabrizio Romano will be wanting to keep his good sort of reputation as being a trusted source of the media. It was one that was linking Matt O'Reilly with Bundesliga and Premier League clubs, which was quite interesting. I thought it was quite surprising hearing that, given how much of a stop-start season that he's had. By all accounts, I didn't watch the game last night between Brighton and Liverpool, but by all accounts, he did well coming off the bench, and I believe that he assisted the winner on the night for Brighton. Brighton have had a pretty good season in the Premier League. Maybe could have been even better if Matt O'Reilly was available for more of it. But Bundesliga teams, I think it was Serie A and Premier League teams are looking at him. Definitely a player that had a lot of links to other clubs before Brighton. You know, you look at the link with Atalanta. If Atalanta like you, then you've clearly got something about you because you've got really good scouts from all over the world. I'm not sure if Celtic have a sell on as well. There seemed to be a bit of speculation.
I think we do.
Yeah, but he's one of these players that I thought Brighton was a really good move for him at the end of the transfer window. I thought that he could really develop because you look at some of the players that have developed there in midfield over the past couple of years. McAllister, Caicedo as well. He thought he could be the next one to really come through and make a massive profit for Tony Bloom and Brighton. But it's due to injuries, it's not necessarily worked out for him. But I think a really good pre-season, hit the ground running, and I think he could be a real success at Brighton because the talent's there. We all know it's there.
Yeah. And I think it's the injuries are the big issue. I mean, I've not followed it closely, but he got a bad injury in his first game, didn't he? It was like a horrendous tackle that went in shortly after he signed.
Town, I believe it was.
He missed a fair amount of time. So I think O'Reilly will be fine. And I guess it's in our best interest, Kevin. I think it's potentially a percentage of the profit Brighton makes, similar to the Leverkusen stuff. So they would have to make a profit on £25 million, which they paid for O'Reilly. So it's in our interest for Matt to fire on and do well for them.
Yeah, I'm quite sentimental about former Celtic players and how they do wherever they go. I remember there was something curious with Matt O'Reilly because after I saw that injury and it was a horrendous tackle, and the reaction of the player as well. I remember, he seemed to be quite pleased with himself that he'd put one on O'Reilly at the time. But in his first or second game back, he scored the winner, didn't he, against Manchester City?
Rings a bell.
And it was, it was a good goal. And I was delighted to see that, but in a curious way, I think he's maybe suffered a little because of that, because that was a horrendous injury, and in normal circumstances, you would be kind of playing yourself back into the team. But he goes and scores a goal against then the best club in the UK and one of the best in Europe, and maybe everybody at Brighton's thinking, brilliant, he's back. He's a player that we paid all this money for. When in actual fact, he's a player who's just suffered a terrible injury and is just feeling himself back into the team. So I'd be surprised if Brighton are a shrewd club. They've got a shrewd manager. They've got a system that works. It's very robust. I'd be surprised if, having paid all that after one season, they're wanting to let him go. Especially, his setup for the winner against Liverpool was good. He's been playing himself back in from the bench, and he's had some nice touch. I've watched some of his games, and the Brighton fans appreciate he's a player, and he belongs in the Premiership. You never know. Somebody came in and offered stupid money, made a real punt, then fair enough. But in the absence of that, I don't see Brighton letting him go for at least another season. I think they want him to restart his career, reset it, and say, right, next season you're starting with us again. Show us what you can do.
He's not going to be on loan at Hearts then next season in terms of their relationship with Brighton. That would be amusing. God, imagine Matt O'Reilly under Derek McInnes. Oh, dear, dear.
I don't want to think about that, Hamish, to be honest with you. Even just in a Hearts cat, I don't want that. He suited the green and white hoops when he was in.
Calm down, it's not going to happen.
No, absolutely not.
I'd be a little bit surprised if Matt O'Reilly rocked up at Tynecastle next season. Anything else, guys? Anything else in your mind before we head off?
Just a wee stat. We've got, by my reckoning, so it's 23 years since Celtic were last beaten in a Scottish Cup final, which is 2002. We were beaten 3-2 by Rangers. So we've since then we've played 11 Scottish Cup finals. This will be our 12th. And we're on a run. First of all, that eclipses the amount of success of, you know, winning Scottish Cups Celtic have ever had in their history. But I think the kind of record of kind of not cup finals in a row, but unbeaten cup finals is held by Rangers between 1929 when Kilmarnock beat them and 1969 when we beat them 4-0. And it was like 14 cup finals they'd played and won them all. If we win on Saturday, that'll be 12. So that's we've been taking all of Rangers' records routinely over the last 7 or 8 years. That's a kind of a small one that kind of belongs in my stattle heed. But I'd quite like that one to keep going.
So, in any competition, when is the last final that we
were beaten in? You would. I think it was
Kilmarnock.
I think it might have been Kilmarnock in the League Cup final in 2012.
That's crazy. If that's the case, like that's a. When you think about the competitions we've gone out, and it doesn't happen often, but it's never the final. It's prior to that.
That was always the trouble getting to the final. Once Celtic got to the final, you would expect them to win that game, but it was always like the semi-final that they would struggle in. You know, the likes of St Mirren, you get Kilmarnock in the final, as you spoke about, Inverness as well. Although there was some extreme circumstances surrounding that game, I remember as well. Once they get to the final, you expect them to do the job. It was just the leading up to it, but in recent times, Celtic have been absolutely imperious getting to finals and just winning them. That winning mentality. When I was growing up, I was used to Celtic not getting to finals because I thought there'd be like a hurdle along the way and they would get put out early doors, maybe away from home. Now, you know, in my 20s, all I've ever known is Celtic really getting to finals and winning finals. It's great having that winning mentality and long may it continue.
Yeah, hopefully it does continue on Saturday, but I'm actually a bit surprised at that stat. That's pretty cool stuff, so let's hope it continues. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Appreciated once again. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll continue the chat this time tomorrow. Much more on the website as well, but for now, I will say goodbye. Thanks, everyone.